So get interactive with us. Your comments, your views, questions are welcome via our social media handles. X, we are live on YouTube, we are live on myjoyonline.com. Of course, we are live on Facebook. Now, let's start off on the energy front because the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, is warning key players in the energy sector, notably the Ghana Grid Company, the Volta River Authority, the Bui Power Authority, and the independent power producers could run into serious financial difficulties that could collapse the energy sector if urgent steps are not taken to revise the cash waterfall mechanism. And the revised mechanism in August 2023, the Electricity Company of Ghana was tasked to make a 1 billion cedi monthly collection and share with all players in the industry under an agreed formula. But the PURC, in a letter to the President and other key groups, says the agreement is not working, warning of a potential power crisis if not addressed immediately. Shortly, we'll speak to energy analyst Kwadwo Poku, who joins us via Zoom. But before that, though, let me bring you a similar view presented by the energy think tank Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, which has been speaking about ECG's financial health at a news conference. Kojo Yauche is policy lead, petroleum and conventional energy.
The growing fiscal burden imposed on the economy by ECG's continuous poor performance has become a ticking time bomb that can undermine the progress made after the domestic and international debt restructuring to keep Ghana solvent. With the level of debt accumulation and the intervention required of the state, it is just a matter of time before Ghana is plunged into another debt distress. With IPP debt mounting and gas suppliers and transporters demanding payments, the pressure on the government to sacrifice social investment is high. Already, some IPPs have begun targeting payment guarantees to pay some of their outstanding debts. Car Power, for example, has drawn down about $112 million to settle the debt owed to them. On the gas side, drawdowns on Standard Chartered Bank letters of credit by the OCTP partners have an outstanding balance of about $400 million to be settled by government. The government now needs to urgently replenish or stay current with the OCTP partners, failing which subsequent drawdowns will trigger an attack on the World Bank guarantee on the project. To conclude, the political lethargy to enable ECG to deliver value to the people of Ghana continues to hurt Ghana's budget and by extension, development efforts. The Energy Sector Recovery Program estimates that the realized power sector shortfalls between 2019 and 2023 were about $8.25 billion. This is sheer waste of public resources that cannot persist. In light of the above preliminary comments, ACEP recommends the following. 1. PURC should assume its regulatory functions over ECG. Specifically, the Commission should implement aggressive measures to have visibility over how much revenue is collected and spent on value chain participants and any other expenditures that may be undermining the sustainability of the sector. 2. PURC should immediately audit the Haftel contract and verify all the payments made to the company to assure value for money for the country and clarify discrepancies in cash values reported by Haftel and ECG. And finally, the current management of ECG should be relieved of their jobs and immediately replaced with effective and transparent management that will salvage the company and its attendant fiscal burden on the state and the people of Ghana.
Right, so that's the position of ACEP, that's the Africa Center for Energy Policy. We also hear from the ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee, John Jenapo, who also held a news conference this morning on a similar subject. We've got tons of letters written by the PURC to the president and other interest groups, related to the energy sector. But let me bring in, energy analyst. He's an expert in this area. Mr. Kwadwo Poku joins me via Zoom. Mr. Poku, you're welcome to the pulse here on JoyNews.
Good afternoon, my brother. How are you?
Great, and it's always a pleasure to have you here on the pulse.
Thank you, my brother.
So, listening to the ASAP news conference, the concluding part, according to them, is the fact that the current management of ECG, they have displayed a lack of competence in the management of the power company, and for that reason, they should step aside, and then a more competent management is employed. Do you share in this conclusion by ASAP before we get into the cash waterfall mechanism and other related matters?
Not at all. I mean, ASAP is a renowned energy sector player, civil society organization that I've worked with over time. And I'm very surprised that they would make such a call. Look, when you have a civil society organization sounding the alarm bells and cautioning government of imminent danger, it's all welcome. I mean, we've all done that, and we've all played our role where we need to keep government on its toes to sound the alarm bells and push government to do the right thing. But when you look at the situation at ECG and what has brought up all this conversation, is the ECG management doing the right thing? The ECG management writing letters on the 28th of August to the stakeholder, to the main shareholder, the government, and asking the minister for certain interventions. If not, there are dire consequences down the line. That is not a management that you call incompetent. They are management that have seen the problems, they know the issues, and they are trying to get a resolution. Look, ASAP has every right to sound the alarm they sound. The energy sector indebtedness is nothing new. We've all known about this. As far back as Amewu's time, Honorable Amewu's time, there was a comprehensive document that was to be put in place. But every day comes with its own challenges. And that's why government is on its toes trying to put measures in place. The cash waterfall is challenged. The money coming into the cash waterfall is what pays for all the value chain. Now, you rightfully see that on the 28th of August, ECG writes a letter to the minister saying that, look, we have prepaid meters that are out of, it's not working, right? It's been over 15 years and they need to be replaced. Now, let me cast your mind back a little. I don't mean to digress. Somewhere in 2013, 2015, a similar exercise for salvaging all the prepaid meters in the energy sector was to be done under the NDC, and there was about 80 million facility in place. NDC wasted $40 million of that money in a bogus transaction where they bring in a company called LNI Investment and First Grace. And they squandered that money in bringing in fake meters that were not fit for purpose. Today, Honorable Jinapo is on TV holding press conference to come and say what? They shouldn't even bring themselves. Anyway, let me go on to the substantive matter. Look, this issue of people trying to make it look like it's PLC that is saying that ECG is bankrupt, that's not the case. What it is that a letter was written, as I have mentioned earlier, on the 28th of August by the MD of ECG, alerting the shareholder, the minister and government that, look, you need to make some capital investment into ECG. And there's a need to bring in a huge amount of meters to basically replace those ones that have expired. That is what ECG now said, that if that exercise is not carried out, it will now lead to the imminent bankruptcy of the company. Because bear in mind, we rely on mobilization of revenue to keep ECG afloat and to keep the value chain afloat. If, let's say, half of ECG meters are expired and they can't collect the right revenue, of course the sector will collapse. Of course, ECG will now not be able to collect the money. But everybody is now holding the wrong end of the stick, which is when the minister sought the advice of PULC on the subject matter. And PULC now wrote a letter saying that, yes, quoting what ECG have said, that if this is not done, it could lead to the imminent bankruptcy of the company. Everybody is now saying that, oh, PULC is saying that, oh, ECG is going to be bankrupt. That's not what it is. People like to take the wrong end of the stick to suit their own narrative. We need to follow the conversation.
Yeah, Mr. Poku, if I may come in here, I know, for example, that 2 weeks ago, the ECG started, replacing some of the obsolete meters. Does it suggest that they got the finances that they needed to do this replacement exercise?
Not at all. There is a strategy that ECG has taken. You know, before, like I said earlier, when the last NDC government wasted $40 million in bogus procurement, and that led to fake meters being procured from LNR and first grades. The new management of ECG have a different strategy and a different approach. What they are doing is that they are giving various companies that are manufacturing and assembling meters locally, they are giving them concessions, okay? And in these concessions, you fix the meters, then through the revenue that you generate by adding on these new meters, you are given a certain percentage to offset the cost of the meters that you've installed. So these meters that are being obsolete, that is the strategy that the new management of ECG is using to be able to now basically get concessions to these companies. They replace the meters, and then over a period, the revenue that comes in, ECG gives him a percentage of that revenue. That is what the ECG management is doing. But what they are saying is that there is a need. Recently, there was a bill passed, there was a loan passed in Parliament by the IMF, the World IDA loan.
The $250 million loan.
Exactly, and about 50 million of thereabout in there is for meters. Okay, so the government is doing a lot to address these problems, and that process has started. They're going to do international tendering and procurement for these meters to come in. And unlike the NDC, this government is going to do the right thing, bring in competent companies to bring the requested prepaid meters in, not to use a bogus company. So the most important thing is that a lot is being done, and it's not true that ECG is bankrupt or a PULC is saying that ECG is bankrupt. It's a conversation. Everybody should understand the beginning of the conversation to where it is now. Look, everybody has the right to sound alarm in the energy sector. All of us are aware of the issues in the energy sector. And we know that the sector indebtedness needs to be reduced. If you look at the manifesto that I chaired for Dr. Baumia, it clearly tells you that we are 100% aware of the problems and we prefer solutions to solve some of these things.
Let me run you through the PULC letter because you brought it up, and the recommendation that they made to the president and the energy minister. Now, in justifying why perhaps a possible or a partial privatization could be the option, they make reference to the fact that even though under the cash waterfall mechanism, ECG is mandated to collect at least 1 billion cedis every month and then distribute it according to the formula agreed at that revised meeting chaired by President Kwadwo. Now, PULC says that ECG has not really been forthcoming in terms of the collections, and that is it impacting negatively on the finances of the other players in the industry. Gridco, for example, they are struggling to even pay salaries of their workers. And they come to the conclusion that the situation underscores the need for a deeper introspection and structural changes beyond tariff adjustment. And they reference, events in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda where they faced similar situation, but decided to, allow private participation in some aspect of their operations, and they are now recording successes. Should that be the way to go?
100%. And like I said, I mentioned earlier, I chaired Dr. Mahmoud Baumia's manifesto team, and that is the recommendation that we gave, the retail. Okay, look, this retail and private sector participation is something that has been on the drawing board even as far back when PDS came. When they were doing the NewCo, the media transaction, okay, some of us at the time recommended through COSECA to the ministry that they should let PDS take the main distribution, but the last mile, what you call the retail market, should be given to a private sector. So we do private various concessions, metering, do the boundary metering, and then ECG will sell the power or give the power to these private companies. They will now invest in the metering. They will now collect the money. And if ECG gives them 1,000 cedis, it's 1,000 cedis ECG gets back.
But you also recognize the fact that if a private sector is brought in, like we witnessed in the case of PDS, they virtually used personnel and resources of ECG in undertaking their duties. So what really can the private sector do that ECG in the present state cannot be empowered to do?
You are not listening to what I said. What I said is that we are not going back to the ECG PDS situation. What we call the retail end of ECG's operation is metering. okay, the bit that does with customer service and metering and collection of revenue, that side should go to a private company. So now that ECG is saying that government should give them money to go and buy meters, if that concession area is for a private company, acquisition of meters, it is their headache. It is not ECG's headache, or it's not government's headache. So all that we are saying is that let's not go back to the PDS model. What we should go back to, and everybody in the sector agrees that the last mile retail market should go to private companies. They will not have the burden of providing the meters. Because look, the meters are a lot of money. If you look, put it this way, if there is over 100,000 meters in deficit, right? And each meter costs $200, 100,000 times $200, that's about 20 million, and it cascades from there. Right. So across the country, the expansion of households and how the country is growing, government and ECG cannot keep up in buying meters. So we need private sector participation in the acquisition of meters. But when the private sector brings in the meters, you give them that retail. So they do the revenue collection. Now, if they are doing the revenue collection and there is illegal connection in their concession area, it is their responsibility to check that illegal connection. Right. If they are doing that and there is fault in that concession area, it is their responsibility. That is what we are saying. Nobody is saying that we should go back to the PDS, and yes, it will be ECG customer service staff, ECG engineers that will now be given to these private companies, and the private companies will expand and bring on board new employees. But the most important thing is that that burden of always asking government to bring money to procure meters will now go to the private sector.
Before I let you listen into what Jinapor told us a few minutes ago when he held our news conference in Parliament, let me just ask this question. I mean, clearly, the ECG MD, Samuel Dobek Mahama, says that since 2007, ECG has never been, capitalized. And so when we are holding them so hard and saying that we need them to act and act professionally, it will appear that on the side of government, perhaps they should also hold some of the blame when capitalization has not been felt at the ECG since 2007, according to the MD. Is it also because we expect it to be a profit-making organization, so therefore it should be able to work and pay for itself?
No, I wouldn't 100% say that government has not done capitalization since 2007. I have mentioned the effort that government tried to do in 2013, 2014, but unfortunately went to a fraudulent company called LNR Investment and First Grace. Okay, and today, my institution, INSTEP, Institute for Energy Policy and Research, we have petitioned the special prosecutor on several occasions to prosecute the people behind that company, LNR and First Grace, which the NDC did a very bogus procurement, and the people who took that money, we know them, okay? But over the years, what government has done, if you look at certain procurement, if you look at certain investment that debts that ECG has, government has ring-fenced a lot of ECG debts and paid those debts. That is a form of capitalization that government has done. Maybe what he is referring to is fresh injection into the company. Right. But if you look at the ring-fencing of debts and all those things, that's the way of a government doing an injection. But I agree with him, a lot more needs to be done going forward.
Mr. Kwadwo Poku, so please, I need your reaction to this news conference that was held in Parliament today. The ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee, John Jinapor, he is demanding full-scale audit of the entire energy sector to reveal the extent to its challenges. Listen in and I can get your reaction.
This report has indicated that ECG is not abiding by the cash waterfall mechanism. And it's the cash waterfall mechanism that allows companies and entities throughout the energy sector value chain to get some revenues or payment. That has been jettisoned. As if that is not enough, the Ministry of Finance, since August 2023, has not paid up even 1 cedi for power consumed by ministries, departments, and agencies. And from our rough estimates, that debt alone balloons to 1.8 billion. Clearly, they are passing the buck, just trying to manage the system and hand over a dilapidated, aging equipment, collapsed energy sector to President Mahama when he assumes office. The energy sector debt alone, based on our rough estimates, is more than $2 billion as we speak. We therefore call for a full audit of the entire energy sector so that we would have a fair and firm appreciation of the state of indebtedness, the state of dilapidation, so that whoever assumes office would prepare to tackle the challenges. There's an attempt to sweep all the challenges under the carpet and hope that they can just cross over the next election. But that is not the way to go. We call on the ECG to restore and respect the tenets of the cash water fund mechanism. We also call on the politicians to desist from the unnecessary political interference, which has culminated in this mess that we find ourselves. ECG, from what PURC states, is able to account for only 42% of the revenue requirement of the sector. And so clearly, the utility is not sustainable. If we continue on this trajectory, the whole sector would collapse. As we speak, Tallow is owed more than $100 million that has not been paid. ENI is owed hundreds of millions of dollars, to the extent that ENI has called on the guarantee and government is defaulting on its debt obligation to ENI. WAPCO has also issued a letter to GMPC threatening to shut down the pipeline over accumulated debt of about $12 million. Clearly, the sector is suffocating. The energy sector is choking. The energy sector is crumbling. The energy sector is collapsing. This government has been sleeping on the job. Right from 2017, they kept on with the mantra that we have too much gas. Today, there's a shortage of gas of about 60 MMscf. Because of that, since January, they've been procuring light crude oil to the tune of about $40 million every month. So in 1 year, government will be procuring $480 million worth of light crude oil. That is enough to build another gas processing plant. But clearly, some people are benefiting from the procurement of oil, and so the interest is more on the procurement of oil rather than delivering a gas infrastructure that can process gas. Since assuming office from 2017, not even 1 kilometer of pipeline has been added by this government. The gas infrastructure, apart from what they've inherited, they haven't added any gas infrastructure. And so we are calling on government to be transparent.
Right, so that's the ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament, John Kwadwo Poku is still with me. So, Mr. Poku, your reaction to the NDC's position on the current issues relating to ECG and the power sector? And if you can kindly unmute for me so we can hear you, Mr. Poku.
I said every time I listen to my brother Jinapo, it's funny because he seems to forget himself. He just mentioned that we've not added a single kilometer of gas infrastructure. Meanwhile, everybody knows that we have put gas plants in Kumasi. What? We flew in the gas through the air to Kumasi. How can he say that? My brother, you see, you are even laughing, right? He says that we've not added a single kilometer of gas infrastructure. Meanwhile, today, we are generating power in Kumasi. We've extended the gas pipeline from Pistia to Kumasi. So how can he say that? Sometimes he forgets himself. Let's put that on the side. Look, the most important thing that the NDC and Mr. Jinapo should realize is that the light was off. And in 2017, there was $2.4 billion indebtedness. Today, the light has been on for 7 years, and he's saying that there's $2 billion investment indebtedness. Which one will Ghanaians go for? Will Ghanaians want their light to be off and there's the $2 billion indebtedness, or when the light was off for 4 years and we have $2.4 billion indebtedness? Look, like my brother, Dr. Baumia always said, we have outperformed the NDC in every sector. The energy sector, we've been calling for a debate. We've been asking them to bring their manifesto, bring their performance, and let's debate these matters. They shouldn't come and hoodwink Ghanaians. When they, like I mentioned earlier, when they had opportunity to resolve these meter problems, they gave $40 million to a bogus company called LNI and First Grade. Kwadwo Poku have petitioned the special prosecutor, and that matter is still outstanding. We know who we know who took that money from Capital Bank and all that. He shouldn't go there before we hold a press conference with documentation and expose some of these people. The most important thing that we should know is that, my brother, look, he makes a very good point. They need to do a forensic audit of some of these indebtedness and the challenge ECG is having in meeting the cash waterfall. That is a concern that is shared by everybody. It's shared by me, because I think that ECG should be able to do a lot more to meet the commitment of the cash waterfall so that the value chain can be paid. So yes, I agree with him in calling for a much more deeper audit in an attempt to find out why ECG is not able to meet the full cost. Because as he said, according to the letter from PULC, we are looking at something like 42% recovery, which is very low.
Absolutely.
Because we say that the losses in the sector is about 30%, which is about 10% technical and let's say 20-something% commercial, right?
According to the MD, they've managed to reduce that to 26%.
Well, that's fine, but even if it's 26%, from what the real-time numbers are, from what they declare for the cash waterfall and what is now coming out, as we see from the pre-audit letter, is 42%. So there's a big gap that needs to be explained and needs to be looked at. I agree with anybody that calls for a forensic audit, but look, the ECG management is doing a lot under the challenging situation that they have. They have a situation where meters are obsolete, they need to replace them. They have situations where there's some FX fluctuation which also affect them. And they stated that in their letter as well. So look, some of these things, myself and my brother Janapo agrees, but he shouldn't go and try and introduce politics in some of these things.
Because
about when John...
Mr. Poku, because you touched on that, perhaps our final bit on this conversation, I can let you go, is another letter that PULC wrote to the president and indeed copied a lot of interest. I'm sure you may have gotten one. And they are asking for inputs to fine-tune the cash waterfall mechanism by Monday, 21st of September 2024. And they makes reference to the fact that the lack of transparency and consistency in the payment of the collected revenue over the period has burdened the sector with continuing deteriorating financial sustainability and worsening quality service delivery. But they also make reference to the fact that the finance ministry, as per the agreement, is supposed to make a $10 million top-up every month. That has not been coming. So the blame, can be shared across board, but clearly there's a need for a revision. That's what they are calling for. I don't know what your suggestion would be.
And I agree. There's a need for a sit-down. There's a need for a roundtable discussion. And I will welcome that. There's nothing wrong. Look, some of us have been in this sector too long to want to sweep things under the carpet. I will definitely call for that sit around the table conversation with everybody and all the parties to understand where we need to be and where these things gets better. We have 3 months before the current administration runs its course. But the most important thing is that the government is committed to the lights being on, and the government is committed to basically making sure that things work right. If it means for us to have a roundtable discussion, by all means, I'll sit next to my brother Janapo and everybody that needs to sit at that table, and we make sure that we get the best for Ghana. Nobody is going to wishy-washy anything. Ghana first, and that's the most important thing.
And you say that the call for the MD and the management to be removed is not something that you welcome.
Why would they go? These people are working under extreme difficult environment, and they are doing their best. They are the ones writing letter to sound the shareholders, alert the shareholder that, look, these are the problems ahead. They are ringing the bell. So why would anybody say they should go? They are not being reckless in their job. If you read the letter they wrote on the 28th of August, that is not the management that is derelict in their work. They are the ones who are sounding the alarm, alerting the shareholder that, look, these are the problems I have. Help me to resolve those problems. That is not the management you sack. That's the management you help. But the NDC will not know anything about that, will they?
Mr. Kwadwo Poku, thank you so much. Mr. Kwadwo Poku is an energy expert and also speaks for the Dr. Bawumia campaign on the matters of energy. I mean, so what do you make of the impasse that is, happening in the energy sector, and what will be your own solution going forward? You can leave your comment on our social media handles, Facebook, X, and of course, YouTube. Now, away from the energy, let's move to another very important subject, and it's about illegal mining. Now, organized labor is resolute in their demand for a declaration of state of emergency and other actions to halt illegal mining activity. As it says, the planned shutdown of the economy is firmly in place despite meeting with President Akufo-Addo's ad hoc committee to try and come to a common ground on this. Now, the Ghana Veterinary Medical Association is raising concerns about the possible emergence of more dangerous zoonotic diseases, perhaps worse than Ebola, HIV, and COVID-19. President of the association, Dr. Joseph Kofi Abu, joins me very soon for a conversation. So, Dr. Abu, you're welcome to the pause. Explain this concern about possible emergence of more dangerous zoonotic diseases. I mean, what exactly is that?
Yeah. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity. We from the Medical Association.
We can hear you, but if you have a television set with you, you can mute the sound so we can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. I don't have a television with me.
Yeah, please go on. Yeah, it's much better now.
Yes, we are saying that we from the Ghana Veterinary Medical Association want to condemn operational police and organized labor to condemn the illegal mining going on in this country. We have seen that what is going on is very devastating our forests and the water bodies. If you come to the water bodies, fisheries are being depleted because the heavy metals and other things that they are using to wash the gold is affecting the very livelihood of most of our fishermen, and very soon it will attack our aquaculture. Also, talking about wildlife, yes, we are saying that about 60% of the zoonotic disease or diseases that affect human beings now are from animals. Now we are going into the forest, destroying the forest and bringing in the animals nearer to us. And this is very worrisome to the veterinary association. In that, most of these diseases that we are seeing,
multiples and other things that we are experiencing, they are all coming from this effect of illegal mining.
We appear to be getting feedback on the sound. Dr. Abu, are you there?
Yes,
Okay, so I mean, today is Thursday, tomorrow will be Friday. It's going to be a very long weekend because Monday is a holiday. I know a lot of people will travel out of Accra, probably come back on Sunday. Some may go to the Eastern, the Ashanti, the Bono region. They may come with bushmeat. What would be your advice for such people? And if you can unmute for me, Dr. Abu, so we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Doctor. So I was asking, I mean, we are almost entering into a very long weekend because of the holiday on Monday, and a lot more people will travel out of Accra, come back, maybe from the Ashanti, from the Bono, from the Eastern. They may buy bushmeat along the highway. What would be your advice to such individuals?
Yeah, for such individuals, I'll talk about a name stretch. Yes, traveling from Kumasi or going to Kumasi, you find that people are bushmeat along the way. These days, people are using insecticides and other drugs to trap these animals. So when you buy such animals, you are putting your life at risk. Not even that, these animals are also living within the forest areas where they are doing this illegal mining, especially the Enyinem area where most of this bushmeat has been sold. these animals live in the forest. They go, they feed on the grasses. So by all means, they pick some of these heavy metals and chemicals that are being used by illegal miners. So they should be cautious. And I think we should start analyzing some of this meat. Veterinary services and other stakeholders should now, and the Forestry Wildlife Division should be taking samples from these animals and testing, because nowadays we have been getting a lot of diseases, kidney diseases and other things, and we don't mind. I'm sure if you look at the pictures that are being shown, these animals, they also drink water. They go in, they take water, we go, we kill them, or even some of them die. They pick them, prepare them, and sell them by the roads. You buy them, and you never know what tomorrow will be. You'll be putting into your stomach. So we are being. Well, we should be cautious when we are buying.
But is it your suggestion that perhaps we may have to consider the banning of, the eating of bushmeat from mining endemic areas?
Yeah, for that one, we have to prove it scientifically. That is what I was talking about, us going and picking samples, that the Wildlife Division and the Veterinary Services, we can take samples and send to standard authority so that we will see the burden of the chemicals.
And so
that
okay, so therefore we should be cautious when consuming such, products.
Yes, we should be very, very cautious when consuming that such products, and especially even the fishes that the local ones that we
all right,
we are buying now.
Okay, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Dr. Abu, from the Veterinary Service Department. I mean, the caution is quite clear that you need to be cautious when you are consuming such animal products because of the danger we are in as far as illegal mining is concerned. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll talk about teachers and cancer.